In the previous session, we outlined the profound transformation underway in China, a comprehensive green transformation. This is the long-term blueprint for the Chinese people to safeguard their beautiful homeland. Today, we will focus on a more specific yet closer to life topic: pollution prevention and control. For people, breathing easily, having access to safe drinking water, and eating safe food are their fundamental needs. These seemingly ordinary needs directly impact their health and quality of life. In China, when pollution problems emerging during rapid economic development began to impact people's daily lives, the government quickly realized that pollution prevention and control must be placed at the core of ecological and environmental governance. Behind this lies a simple yet profound concept. The ultimate goal of development is to serve the people. Therefore, China invested tremendous human, material, and financial resources in tackling pollution to ensure people can breathe fresh air, drink clean water, eat safe food, and live comfortably in a good environment. This people-centered philosophy runs through every aspect of China's pollution control efforts. Thus, pollution prevention and control has always been a central task in China's ecological and environmental governance. Next, I will take you through 3 real cases to see how China is guarding its skies, waters, and land step by step, achieving these goals. These stories showcase the government's resolve and the transformation of enterprises, collectively writing the vivid chapters of China's fight against pollution. On February the 8th, 2022, Chinese athlete Eileen Gu soared from the Zhejiang big air jump, flying under Beijing's blue sky to claim the gold medal in freestyle skiing big air. After the competition, she said, "At the big air, from the spot on the jump, I could see the Beijing TV tower, and I can see it from my home too. So it really felt like being home." The straight line distance from the jump to the TV tower is about 15 kilometers. The sense of home warmth Eileen Gu felt is similar to the sense of home security Beijing residents feel breathing healthy air. But there was a time when air pollution in Beijing and surrounding areas was a major headache for local governments and residents. Back in 2008, however, the situation was very different, with widespread concern about air quality during the Summer Olympics. Du Shaozhong, then Deputy Director and spokesperson of the Beijing Municipal Environmental Protection Bureau, recalled, "In 2008 alone, I received around 1,000 foreign journalists. We repeatedly explained that we could guarantee air quality for the Olympics. But some, with bias, kept raising the issue, even saying they would wear masks. I did feel quite helpless." To keep the air clean during the Olympics, Beijing restricted car use based on license plate numbers. Odd numbers could drive some days, even numbers others. Additionally, enterprises in surrounding provinces and cities were subject to production limits. Through the combined environmental effects of large-scale temporary measures and long-term governance, Olympic blue skies were successfully achieved. However, after the Olympics, a survey report released by the Beijing Public Opinion Research Center showed that some citizens worried the Olympic blue would be just a fleeting phenomenon. However, what they were afraid of never happened. Du, now Vice Chairman of the All China Environment Federation, told Beijing Traffic Radio in 2022, "I'm now also involved in some work for the Winter Olympics Organizing Committee, and no one questions Beijing's air quality anymore. Not only that, China has become more experienced and adopted more scientific and targeted approaches in tackling air pollution. When Ma Jun, director of the Institute of Public and Environmental Affairs, spoke about the air quality during the Beijing Winter Olympics, he said, "This time, we developed better targeted measures. This was based on a full grasp of the data. Since 2013, we have been monitoring 6 major pollutants, including PM2.5 and ozone. This allows us to fully identify stationary and mobile sources in these regions and their emissions. Then, we created tailored rules for each factory. We grouped them by pollution level and focused our controls on the heavier polluters. This process led to much more precise and fine-grained management. Today, after the Beijing Winter Olympics, Beijing's skies are bluer. According to the Beijing Municipal Ecology and Environment Bureau, Beijing recorded 290 days of good air quality in 2024, the highest since monitoring began. The number of days with good air quality in the Chinese capital stood at 79.2% in 2024, an increase of 19 days compared to the previous year and a significant rise of 114 days compared to 2013. The number of days with heavy air pollution dropped dramatically, from 58 in 2013 to just 2 in 2024, a decrease of 96.6%. China's capital has created the Beijing miracle of air pollution control for a megacity. Nationwide in 2024, the proportion of days with good air quality was 87.2%, while the proportion of days with heavy pollution was only 0.9%. So, that's how China tackled its air pollution. But what about its waters? This brings me to our second story, the Wujiang River cleanup. There's a saying you will often hear in Guizhou province. Without a clean Wujiang, there can be no thriving Guizhou. The Wujiang River is a branch of the Yangtze River. It winds through Guizhou for 896 kilometers. As the province's largest river, it sustains over half of its population and economic output. Unsurprisingly, people here affectionately call it their mother river. However, this mother river once suffered severe wounds. In the early 2010s, pollution in the Wujiang River basin peaked. Wujiang town, located in the middle of the river, was always busy with people coming and going. Word of mouth made the local specialty Wujiang fish famous. He Lingsong, president of the Wujiang Town Catering Association, recalled, "At its peak, there were nearly 200 restaurants specializing in Wujiang fish." In March 2009, fishermen in Wujiang Town noticed something unusual. The river water had turned milky white with a fishy smell, most noticeably on the right bank. Fishermen's livelihoods were severely affected. What was happening? Environmental experts soon found the source, spring number 34 in Wujiang Town. By tracing the pollution upstream, they discovered its origin came from the Jiaoyishan phosphogypsum slag yard, located more than 10 kilometers away. Built in 2006, the Jiaoyishan yard belonged to a local fertilizer company and was used to store phosphogypsum waste slag. Due to a lack of anti-seepage design, wastewater with high phosphorus concentration seeped into the ground, merged with the Wujiang River's groundwater. and entered the Wujiang River via spring number 34. The main pollution problem in the Wujiang River basin is excessive total phosphorus concentration. The focus is on controlling phosphorus chemical pollution, and the solution hinges on managing the massive accumulation of phosphorus gypsum, the leftover waste from relevant industries, said Luo Hongxiang, Ecological and Environmental Supervision Commissioner of the Guizhou Provincial Department of Ecology and Environment. Guizhou is a vital national phosphorus producer. It holds especially rich deposits in the Wujiang Basin, where large chemical plants cluster along the river banks. Many older slag yards of those plants weren't built to prevent leaks. Combined with the region's porous karst landscape, full of caves and cracks, phosphorus-heavy wastewater from the waste stockpiles can seep into underground rivers, eventually polluting the Wujiang. Pollution control was urgent. In 2012, the Spring Number 34 Water Pollution Control Project was launched. It was considered the Guizhou provincial government's #1 project for pollution management. They took concrete actions, building wastewater treatment plants and pipelines to pump contaminated water back for treatment. Then they covered the phosphogypsum waste sites with special liners to prevent seepage. Through this process, they continuously adapted their strategy based on results. They realized the problem was in the water, but the root cause was on the shore, and even deeper in the development philosophy. Starting in 2018, Guizhou implemented a new mechanism for phosphogypsum. The government told enterprises, "You can produce, but you must dispose of the waste you generate yourselves." In other words, the new policy required that enterprises were only permitted to produce as much phosphate fertilizer as they could handle in terms of disposing of the resulting waste slag. Smart entrepreneurs quickly adopted multiple strategies to tackle the problem. The first step was to backfill old mines. They started hauling waste stockpiles back into empty mine tunnels. This kills two birds with one stone, disposing of hazardous waste while preventing ground collapse. The second step was recycling. They turned the waste slag into useful products, such as cement additives, building materials, and even decorative items. After 10 years of systematic efforts, the ecological environment of the Wujiang River achieved a historic turnaround. The water quality of the mainstream of the river within Guizhou improved year by year from the worst grade of 5+ to grade 2 for the first time in 2020. Since 2025, phosphorus levels at key national checkpoints have stayed within safe limits. Among 119 monitored river sites, 98.3% now have clean water. Most impressively, all 23 province-level exit points where Guizhou's rivers flow into neighboring provinces have met water quality standards for 5 consecutive years. From protecting the air and water, we now turn to the land. Our final example is the transformation of a former steel company site in Chongqing. Dadukou District, Chongqing, carries the glorious history of the steel city. When the old Chongqing Iron and Steel Company Limited, or known as Chongqing Steel, completed its major relocation in 2011 for environmental reasons, it left behind over 500 hectares of riverside land needing urgent cleanup. More than 70 years of steel production had quietly caused pollutants, especially heavy metals in the soil. So this once industrially vibrant land became a wasteland requiring healing. How to breathe new life into this scarred land? It was a challenging battle to purify the land. Engineers used various methods. Some polluted soil was transported away to be used as raw material for cement production. Another portion underwent high-temperature treatment to completely remove organic pollutants. The rest was safely contained and then placed in a proper landfill. The goal was clear: to treat all contaminated soil and ensure safety for the future. As of June 2024, over 57% of the contaminated plots had been remediated, with more than 1.3 million cubic meters of polluted soil treated. Additionally, over 800,000 cubic meters of general industrial solid waste was properly handled. The total investment for this land healing reached about 1.35 billion yuan. Restoring such a large historic industrial site has no perfect off-the-shelf solution. The smart move by Chongqing and Dadukou district was not settling for traditional methods, but boldly pursuing innovations to make soil remediation faster, cheaper, and safer. To boost efficiency, they created a quicker three-step process. Before, fixing any plot, big or small, required the full Lancy sequence: investigation, risk assessment, remediation, and final inspection. The whole process was complex and often time-consuming. Dadukou district found a solution. For less contaminated small plots, they tried a self-remediation reform. This cut out most of the complex steps, leaving only the core three: submit application, carry out the work, and final inspection. Using this new approach on 5 plots, the whole process from application to final sign-off took about 1 month, nearly 70% faster than the old way. To save time and costs, Chongqing launched a risk-tiering reform. Previously, changing any land use caused costly soil surveys, usually taking 2 months and hundreds of thousands of yuan. The new system classifies land as high, medium, or low risk based on contamination risk and future use. For low-risk changes, only a simple form is now required. Luo Xueya, Deputy Director of the Ecology and Environment Bureau in Chongqing High-Tech Zone, illustrated this with a real project in her district. Before the reform, a soil survey would have covered over 1,100 hectares at a cost of roughly 10 million yuan, taking 2 to 3 months. But now, after the reform, the required survey area shrank to just about 200 hectares, cutting costs to about 1.8 million yuan and reducing the time to just 1 month. To enhance safety, they clarified previous gray areas in policy and formally assigned safety oversight of soil remediation projects to the District Housing and Urban Rural Development Committee. Crucially, this required establishing robust supervision processes from day one of each project. This not only ensured safe, controlled remediation, but also laid the foundation for secure future use of the reclaimed land. This site has undergone a magnificent transformation, from a roaring steel plant to a verdant park and safe land for development. It's a successful shift from an industrial rust belt to a cultural showcase, and now stands as a landmark celebrating Chongqing's industrial culture. Today's stories review 3 consistent principles underlying China's pollution control: targeted, science-driven, and law-based approaches. These principles serve as 3 keys that collectively unlock the door to environmental protection. The first key, targeted pollution control. This means avoiding one-size-fits-all measures and tackling specific pollution problems directly. Take Beijing's fight for blue skies. It started with car restrictions like the odd-even license plate rule. Later, using real-time data, authorities enforced custom plans for each major factory. The focus always stayed on cutting PM 2.5, the core pollutant, using precise actions when needed most. These tailored steps reduced emissions more effectively, showing how targeted control works. The second key, science-driven pollution control. Science acts as our navigation system, ensuring solutions stand up to real-world challenges. Take the Zhejiang River cleanup as an example. Faced with severe phosphorus pollution, authorities designed a scientific mechanism that required companies to safely deal with waste before producing more phosphorus. By turning waste into resources through innovation, they sustainably tackled pollution at its source. The third key, law-based pollution control. Strong institutions ensure lasting results through systematic governance. Consider the remediation of Chongqing Steel's former site. Authorities clearly defined safety oversight duties for soil cleanup projects and established a risk-based classification system. By turning successful reforms into binding regulations, they boosted efficiency while never compromising safety standards. That demonstrates how institutional frameworks safeguard long-term success. Today, we've discussed the profound significance of pollution prevention and control for people's livelihoods. Through 3 cases, we get a glimpse of China's efforts to safeguard these aspirations. Beijing's efforts created the Beijing miracle, winning the war against air pollution. The systematic treatment of the Zhejiang River basin restored the clarity of Guizhou's mother river. The innovative remediation of the Chongqing steel site revitalized the polluted land. These practices are all based on the core concept of targeted, science-driven, and law-based approaches to pollution control. These explorations not only concern China's ecological future, but also provide insights for global pollution governance. So, are there any unique ways for your countries to tackle environmental issues?